In Europe and in the United Kingdom where I'm from, the age of consent is 16.
Wait a minute.
Now, I just want to say,
Nigga, shut the f up.
Russell Brand is in the news because apparently Russell's been a naughty boy since he was, I don't know, he's been a naughty boy for a long time apparently. And allegations from way back when he was anywhere from 28 to as late as like 40 have been coming out in droves in the last little while. Anytime a sentence starts with the age of consent is 16, I'm just telling you, just leave that shit to the courts and just stop yapping about it, okay?
In Europe and in the United Kingdom where I'm from, the age of consent is 16. And I did sleep with a 16-year-old when I was 30. But when I was 30, I was a very different person. I was a lot younger and I was an immature 30-year-old.
I'm sorry. Did this man try to justify his behavior by saying by saying he was an immature 30-year-old? People say this all the time. Oh, if they're old enough for the legal age of consent, then they're old enough for whatever. And here's a 30-year-old man saying, I'm not culpable because I was an immature 30-year-old. Oh, you know, the frontal lobe was fully developed, but then I did drugs and it went back in time 15 years, so it's like I was a toddler. I'm a mature 30-year-old who has the right to vote, but anything relating to underage girls, I'm not mature enough.
If you're saying like, oh, age of consent is 16, trust me, he would have gone 12.
Can we just think about it? So what he's essentially saying is, if you were a 30-year-old and you were mature, then this would be really wrong. It's not a matter of age necessarily, it's a matter of maturity. He's not mentioning her maturity. He's going to the exact legal age for defense, but then when it's his own culpability, he's using maturity as the barometer, not his age. And that's how people can hold these two things simultaneously. They can acknowledge, and like any man who sits here and tries to like defend this weirdness, remember two things. One, if that's your own daughter, you're losing your fucking mind. And then secondly, he had to have a driver pick her up from school, had to have her save his number under different random names, and he had to coach her on lies she had to tell her own parents in order to be with him. So do you understand? Just right there, all the dynamics already at play.
Yeah, you're not immature, you're manipulative.
Okay, so now he goes on Piers Morgan, and this is where it gets fucking funny and weird.
How are you feeling about the fact that in a few months' time, in a southeast London courtroom with 12 jurors sitting there, you're going to basically, over a period of about 2 months, go through a process which could end up with you going to prison for a long period of time if you're convicted?
Tumultuous is a perfect word because it is like a storm. And sometimes I feel like I'm comfortable in the eye of the storm where there can be calm and at least the capacity to observe. And at other times it feels all-consuming and frightening and pressurizing, like a storm also would be, in almost every conceivable way. Well, when you sort of do this sort of variation that was introduced, like he's revered or reviled, and I sometimes feel like all those things, like a truth teller or silver tongue comment. And wow, I think it's a really good place to begin.
Now you guys might be wondering, what is he talking? He does this thing throughout this interview. You're gonna notice it. He just starts rambling, and like when I say he rambles, he'll use these words and he'll jump back and forth. And oftentimes, as this interview progresses and the questions get more pointed, you're gonna see how dodgy he gets.
And the lifestyle that you've talked about very openly now, looking back on that and saying, look, I was out of control, taking all these drugs, sleeping with all these women, whatever it is. How can you be sure that your own memory is good, is sound, is reliable, is truthful? Most people who've slept with thousands of women and taken barrel loads of drugs and led this incredibly hedonistic lifestyle, I would think if I interviewed them and asked them to name even what year it was, would struggle to remember. Can you be certain, if you're honest, that your memory is completely sound, accurate?
Yes, I can be honest, and I am honest. And I think what's an important distinction is that I was a drug addict prior to becoming famous. So that was a very different rhythm and time. And I think the question was, has it made you a more successful predator? And even then, I objected to the idea of predation as persecutory. But predation is simply an amplification of looking for something with intention.
Oh my God! Whoo! The gaslight.
Amidst the sort of flamboyance and the evident hedonic is a person that was looking for a lot of attention and approval and love and connection. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't clumsiness and that there wasn't selfishness and objectification and lots of things, to your point about there being a moral distinction. Flat out wrong. But it's very different than a kind of a bawdy, overbearing, oppressive, controlling. Obviously I'm aware of the sort of claims that were made publicly in the documentary, and I'm not sure to which degree what makes part of this so complicated. And you know, as a journalist, that journalists are not held to the same level of...
You guys know that he's not answering the question, which was pretty simple. Considering how much drugs you were taking, how can you be so sure that all these experiences were consensual? And now he's here talking about a documentary and other things. So just be mindful of how he's getting away from it to do his sophistry.
He's just saying no with a lot of steps. Do you remember? He don't even remember the question. So there you have it.
There you go.
But the whole thing was very live and alive. I have a good memory.
You were clean from 2002.
December the 13th, 2002 is the date I got clean.
Some of the allegations go back to 99, so there must have been some crossover.
Well, without wanting to get into the specificity of the criminal matter, that's not generally the complexion. And in the variation from that generality, there are other indicators that make it clear that my memory is reliable.
That was not the question. That was the first question he asked.
I will say shout out to Piers, because he asked the right question. He said, because he tried to dodge by saying, no, I was sober. No, some of the allegations are before you were sober. And then also, if you were sober, doesn't that kind of make it worse? So that means that 100%. All this bad behavior wasn't the result of your drug addiction. You were lucid, had a buzzing career, taking off, able to get off of drugs and stay off of drugs. And that's when you were a piece of garbage?
So you were just doing that, not drug induced. You were just crazy, basically, is what you're telling us.
You used the word exploitative. He knows that that was wrong. What is that line for you between exploiting, as a 30-year-old man, a 16-year-old girl, to the point where it becomes criminal, potentially?
So I just want to pause there for a second. The reason why. There's a self-incriminating aspect to it, not from a legal standpoint, but from a moral standpoint. Because he did that interview where he calls his own behavior exploitative around the age of 30, which is around the age where a lot of these incidents were happening. At the time, he was already cognizant of what he was doing was wrong. So he'll say something like, I wasn't mature enough, but then also be able to be like cognitively aware enough to be like, what I'm doing is wrong. And that's a fascinating.
Yeah, because his memory act, we have indicators of that.
But this is not even a memory question now. Now this question is like, so you knew it was wrong. You even used the words to say what you were doing was wrong. But now you want to retroactively look back and be like,
The age of consent means, in varying ways, in different places, people have a understanding which probably isn't wholly accurate and reliable, that at a certain age, a person is able to make a consensual decision to smoke a cigarette or vote or have sex or gamble, and these things vary according to jurisdiction and type of law. The context in which those consensual encounters were happening was a sort of merry deluge of constant consensual activity that was very, very difficult to sometimes believe was happening, but one adjusts to those kind of conditions. And I would say Piers, on a personal level, yes, of course that's wrong. It's morally and spiritually wrong. It's legal. It's not a legal issue. Seems like a deliberate removal of context, not to continually cement that famous men that are single have always and typically behaved in this manner. One prays consensually, but one also suspects that there's a responsibility incumbent on people that have that power.
One issue I have with Russell Brand types, and look, I understand he's facing a legal battle. He has to be careful what he says, which is why don't do this interview. But all these like so-called truth tellers the people who are not bound by mainstream media and the forces that be, the ones who can speak their mind and won't hide from you what they think and really believe, all of a sudden have a lot of words to use and a lot of stuttering to do and a lot of dodging to engage in, even though we're not in a gym session of dodgeball. And listening to Russell Brand right now is just that. He's doing this thing where he sees the problem, but he always tries to find a way to extricate himself. So men who are famous have always had lots of women. We hope consensually, though we can assume that many. And when he moves on, like, you could tell there's a point of it where I think if he had to really reckon and do a confessional with the priest, and it was all behind closed doors, you know, the guy would be like, I did this shit. But he can't. And that's why he's doing this whole long-winded answer where he's trying to position himself as the man who sees the fact that famous men do take advantage of these young girls or whatever it is, but also position himself as being the one who's like, I was the ethical drug addict player who remembers everything and always had consensual relationships with all these 16-year-old girls who I made their parents not know about me and made sure they manipulate. I was exploitative, but I never did anything without consent. I might have pressured her, but never before she could not say no. I'll take full accountability, but not for the things I didn't do. Not for the things I didn't do. It's like, all right, bro. It's the truth when it's convenient. And then when it's not, all of a sudden, they want to write you a poem. They got things they want to tell you. You could ask them any questions. Are you coming to the party? We are sitting with the luminous possibility of your gathering. Piers, I'm sitting with you right now, wanting to answer your questions, but as you know, there's a legal case that's ongoing in regards to my partying behavior. Now I'm stuck in this gobbledygook that revolves around behavior. All right, I'll stop.
Were you still at the Sun when I was being Shagger of the Year? This one I was literally being given awards for it.
No, I mean,
so of course it's really terrible.
I'd actually left the Sun, but the Sun had an award called Shagger of the Year, and you won it a couple of times. I think.
3 times.
And it was, yeah.
Some of the glory's faded.
Right, but it was
amidst the rape allegations, the Shagger of the Year title do not seem quite as valuable.
It's like you see
he's taking pride.
A window to who he there's a window to who he really, like, he's proud of that. You peek into the window of his narcissism. I'm not saying he's a narcissist, but
yeah,
he definitely has traits.
Can I go back to asking you a question about your Bible?
Yes, if you want to.
Thank you. Was that the one you took into court?
You're the very one.
Okay. What was your thinking of taking it into court? And what you were seeing, looking at some passages, what were the relevant passages for you?
All right. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. That didn't hurt, did it?
A little bit. It was this from Isaiah. You're right. Bear did say, be chilled. Sometimes I lose the chill, man. It's pretty... It's this. Remember you just said it's a hired spot. This is from Isaiah. Man, did I mark it before?
Yeah, that's me when I failed my test, and my mom's like, "Where's your report card?"
I can tell you that much. When you see a Christian and he knows about a verse that he loves, he's gonna recite that shit. He won't need the Bible. L'Éternel est mon berger, je ne manquerai de rien. Tu me conduis vers de verts pâturages. Ta roulette et ton bâton me rassurent. That's Psalm 23 in French. Because when they made me learn that shit when I was a kid, I remember that shit. You understand what I'm saying? I need to rummage through the pages. I know that shit in my French that I learn it in. That's everything that you need to understand and you know about the way that he does things. Okay, cool. Was that very good verse that you like and that you love and that you put all that razzle dazzle around, saying that it is the one that carries you? Oh, fuck out of here, bro.
These pages are so loud. I feel like every page in this Bible is like, "Nigga, you lying."
Why the fuck you lying? Why the fuck you lying?
Look at Piers.
Oh my God.
Look at Piers.
That, you know what that look? What look is that? That's that. Fucked him. The whole time he's silent, looking for that verse, is the same time it takes him to ramble, but with no words. So,
Yeah.
you talking or you not talking when answering a question equals to the same result, my man.
At one point, the interview switches over and they start talking about like vaccines and whatnot. Brand during the pandemic gained incredible popularity by talking about this topic and the COVID related stuff. And so they have this long debate about vaccines. And then Piers asks him a simple question.
Do you believe in vaccines generally?
I have the kind of questions that anyone that's paying
When
attention
there was a
to
measles,
media...
a little outbreak of measles recently. Even RFK was giving evidence yesterday and said he absolutely believes in the measles vaccine. In fact, he said, I'm not anti-vax at all. In fact, he said, I support most vaccines. He had legitimate questions about the COVID vaccine because of the speed at which that was designed.
Yes.
In your case, are you anti all vaccines?
No, I don't.
Or which vaccines do you accept are good?
Calm down and slow
Well,
down.
it's a serious question.
I understand it's a serious question. Of course it is, but I want you to calm down and slow down.
Very calm.
Because, well, then, in which case, unyoke yourself from the conditioning of the world you've found yourself in. See when...
He just did it. He just did it. He dead ass just did it. Unyoke yourself from the conditioning of the world.
Yes.
In response to Andrew Marr's, well, I've not been conditioned by the BBC. They've not told me what questions I can ask and what my perspective should be.
Guys, just remember, the question was, do you believe in any vaccines? And we were talking about the BBC.
Are there any vaccines that you think are good?
It's not something I'm interested in. I don't.
But you're very interested in it. You talked about it a lot.
No, I'm interested in truth. And where truth and vaccines intersect, I'm interested in that.
So this guy spent most of the pandemic yapping about the vaccine and everything relating to it. He would bring on specialists. He would read studies. He would talk about it ad nauseum. And then when asked a simple question of, do you believe in any vaccines? He says, I'm not an expert. And it's just like the comedians who did all this fucking political interviews and all this stuff about how powerful their word is. And the moment people are like, well, do you feel any accountability? They're like, I'm just a dumb guy doing comics. With him, I'm not an expert. But then why did you make a career and why did you have hours on YouTube talking about this topic?
Crystal clear in his testimony this week that actually he's not anti-vaccine, that he's been driving the measles vaccine here, he thinks very successfully. And so my question for you is there any vaccine that you think is a good thing?
I'm a little frustrated.
Or are you anti-vaccine?
I'm a little frustrated because what I sense is that I don't think you do it on purpose, but I think there are moments where you're doing your job where you get kind of caught up in the way that the material will be received. And in a way, that's responsible journalism because you have to be effective and you have to be...
Wow, that was.
He just switched it up.
Yes.
The
You saw what he did?
switcheroo is nice.
You saw what he did? He accused him of doing what he's doing. He's worried about how his answer is going to come across, so he's not answering it. And he's accusing Piers of trying to do something there. You're the one who's very worried about, just answer the question, yes or no. But he won't do it.
Piers, if we get mired in a conversation about my personal understanding of vaccines, we'll miss the opportunity to sketch out together the problem. The problem is, new technology means a true potential for decentralized power.
And here we go. He does his fucking whole spiel. He just doesn't answer the question. So this is a good 15 minutes where Piers asks him such a simple question, and he just won't answer it.
I feel like you're just sort of sniffing around for headlines, and I just don't think that's not worth it.
I'm really not. I'm really not.
So what do you
You
wanna
took me
know?
on over vaccines, fair enough. And I've had to admit I was wrong.
And that's also another part of this. I didn't play this, but earlier in the interview, Russell asks him about vaccines, and then Piers admits he was wrong.
You did argue it, Piers, and one of the main
I did.
reasons that you remain contentious
No, I
is
did.
because you advocated,
Sure.
you shamed people into getting vaccines,
Russell,
and we now know those
Russell,
vaccines have killed more people
you don't need to hector
than they
me.
saved. I'm not hectoring you.
because I'll tell you why.
But because I think you're-
Because unlike most people,
You've repeatedly apologised.
yes, and I've said, you know what? I believed.
Now, good.
Hang on. I felt I had actually, in the initial moment, abrogated my journalistic duty.
And now, in turn, Russell
Yeah.
won't answer a simple question.
You told me many years ago that you used to study dictionaries to learn long words.
Oh, yes, I did do that.
Okay, so you're very eloquent and you have a lot of good linguistic skills and you're a very good debater and a very good arguer. But some people will be watching this and going, you're very, very, very good at avoiding us answering questions that you've in your head thought, he just wants that for clickbait. And I don't want that for clickbait. I am actually just asking you questions I wanted to ask you
I'd
for a
love
while.
to talk to that hypothetical but very real audience member right now. We're on Piers Morgan's show, right? Piers is a really talented man in lots of ways. He's been inside the system. This is a person that knows Rupert Murdoch, that's been in rooms with some of the most powerful people in the world, including Donald Trump. He won the Celebrity Apprentice. He's seen things. He knows things. It seems to be doing that primarily by increasing cultural fear, increasing division and dread, and then providing us with solutions, but always at a cost. You'll yield a little bit more of your personal power. You'll find yourself hating people you don't know, caring about some abstract, faraway issue, and look at your own life.
He's going off. He's not very unyoked right now.
You're gonna be saying that the whole show.
Yes, because I like that. Listen, I'm not like Russell Brand, all right? I didn't learn the freaking dictionary. So when I learn one good word, I will stick to that word, overuse it, then it's going to be in my fucking vocabulary. Let me work.
Those vaccines, could I get bottled water that's not directly from not to be difficult.
Listen.
You know eat meat, right?
Yes.
So what happened there?
What happened there was like my veganism was really motivated by not wanting to see animals. I really don't like the idea of animals suffering. And I think when everything changed in my life with my boy and the allegations of and stuff. Here, here's a bottle with you, mate. I think, someone getting one? Love it. Thank you. When my boy was ill and the allegations happened, like everything sort of changed very, very quickly. And I was confronted with something, like, because it was in the news. So it was very sort of confrontational. The significant thing is that I was brought to Christ in an involuntary instant. Coming to Christ was not...
Guys, don't forget, he was just asked why he stopped being a vegan or a vegetarian. And this is what he's answering. So just remember what the question was, because you ramble so hard. You forget, okay?
My wife's always eaten meat, She's an unbelievable, stable, beautiful, incredible person. She was going to come, she wanted to say hello to you. I wish she had in a way, because it would have anchored us. And instead we was filming, and you got HS ticky-tocky trauma out of it, didn't you? But we're not like filming. I'm not trying to gotcha no one. I don't need anything. I've got everything I need. Anyway, so...
What?
The Christian story that God came to earth in human form, that died somehow taking our sin upon himself and was resurrected, was true. And I felt it not rationally or logically, I felt it in my belly. And then from that minute I was reading about it. Now, I suppose what happened after that is I didn't feel the need to have a self-selected arbitrary system of righteousness or morality like wokeism or veganism, which has a good intention, as does wokeness, I think. Compassion, kindness, these are really lovely, lovely ideas. But it just didn't anymore. And my wife's in a lamb shop, and I remember the smell of lamb in my nan's in Dagenham. I remember the smell of it, and I ate it, and I felt like, one of my friends, who's always been a meat eater, said, it's them or you, Russell. It's them or you. You've got to start eating meat to survive out there.
Okay.
We started with a question that says, why did you start eating meat? And ended up why.
Because he was a vegan before.
Start.
And then so he was a vegan before and he stopped. And Piers is like, why did you stop being a vegan? And he said, basically, I was with my wife and I smelled lamb.
And you gotta eat meat to survive. All right, moving right along.
He gave that whole answer just to say he could smell his wife's lamb and he wanted to eat. That's it.
In 2014, you said Fox News was a fanatical terrorist propagandist organization. By 2023, you're popping up on Fox News quite happily. What happened there?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as anything other than, what do I think about Fox News? What do I think about Fox News when I went on there with Tucker or Hannity? The point I said, say when I was on Bill Maher that time, and they were like, oh, MSNBC, like Fox is evil, but MSNBC is great. This is what it was. But get ready to listen. Like if you come from a working class background and you sort of encounter the normal kind of tribes, they get involved in the entertainment industry, there's a sort of eliding into champagne socialism, like somehow your views of equality are thin. And as I looked at an institution like Fox, it was easy to vilify. But as the world got more complex, as the left sort of went a bit kind of crazy, I think, Piers, because I was online and reading this stuff, I understood that there was a different way of operating in those worlds. Right, bad, liberal, good, libertarian, bad.
Climate change?
I'm just shouting. No, is this what we're reduced to? What's happened? Have you disengaged?
No.
Are you disengaged? Yes.
Yeah, because you'd be rambling. You get these long-winded answers.
Yes.
That don't go. So
yes.
he used to have an issue with Fox News, and now he's like, oh, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a funny thing. Because, like, on one hand, you might think, okay, well, people are just becoming more open to the idea that it's all equal or whatever. But this guy's very anti-mainstream. He talks about how the mainstream media lies and big pharmaceuticals and all this other stuff. Fox News is incredibly partisan. It's incredibly linked to the right. It's incredibly linked to pharmaceutical companies. You'll complain about 100%. Pfizer every day, but they run ads for Pfizer all the time. So they're much part of the... But the reason why he loves to go on that show is because it's a medium and it's a group that will protect and insulate him, because now he feels like he has a home. So it just goes to show you that it goes to the idea, and why I think Piers was going at, is that people will call you a grifter And this is a big reason.
And here's why.
You know, you used to be a vegan. You used to think it was so important to protect animals. Then you smelled lamb and you started eating. It's either us or them, which is such a fucking retarded thing to say. Like, if people wanted to, they could be vegans en masse. It's fine to say you want to eat meat, but pretending like it's an us or them, like animals are going to kill us, is stupid. You know, like that's why people call him a grifter.
That's the reason why he's like super big on Christianity right now. I think he's not really in there. He's just using that to be like, it's a tape move.
Yes.
It's a tape move. You do some fuck shit, and then after that, you're like, oh, I'm Muslim now. Now he got caught red-handed, and now he's like, oh no, I'm righteous. God is good.
You know, there are people who think you're basically just a massive grifter, that you're very smart, you're very eloquent, you can be very persuasive with the power of your words, but that actually when it comes to any of these issues, you don't really have a personal principled view.
I do, and it's a really
Your view is that all people in power are terrible, but when I've challenged you to say, well, what would you actually do? You go on a 20-minute eloquent spiel, which doesn't answer the question.
Oh my God, it actually does answer the question. Let me try and do it again. Firstly, find faith and integrity in yourself. Do whatever you can. Pray. Find God. Secondly, we can't have systems that prioritise the centralisation of power, whether that's representative democracy or this global commercialism.
What would you do?
Use the technology that we currently have. All right, how good, this is the bit I wanted to get to. Can I have a glass of water? I mean,
Oh my days! He did it again.
Yeah. I can't listen to him anymore. But I think Preach might have crashed out for real. You know, as far as the allegations and whether or not they're true, there's no doubt that he did sleep with somebody who was 16 and he was in these relationships with these people. I think it's a matter of consent. Some people think a 16-year-old can't consent to a relationship with a 30-year-old. People are going to have their differing opinions. I myself know whether you think they can or not, that shit is fucking nasty. And Russell Brand himself thinks it's very bad. So, you know, a court is going to decide whether or not he belongs in jail, and that'll be that. I think he's a giant piece of garbage. I think he's definitely a grifter. I think it's always impressive to watch him dodge every answer when he's asked a direct question. And it's fascinating to watch all the guys who became super big during the pandemic on the idea of telling the truth all of a sudden get cold feet now it's time for them to be answering questions about their credibility. Now that it's time for them to actually own up to what they said, they don't want to do it anymore. And it is fascinating that all the pseudo comics or comedians are all now very careful with their words. They weren't careful when it was cracking jokes at anybody's expense or punching on whoever or making whatever joke or making whatever claim. They just yapping off the hip. It's cruel. It's cool to watch all the edgy comics, all the flagrant people. Not so flagrant no more. What do you think?
I mean, it's. Can I get a glass of water? Like,
this is very unyoked behavior. Okay.
I think he's in hot water, and he knows he's in hot water. All this thing that he does whenever he talks a whole lot, it's really to dodge the question and to not answer it, and just to be in a safe place while still be able to demonstrate that he can speak. Because this guy likes to have compliment. He likes when people. He likes to be fluffed. You understand what I'm saying? So when people give him compliment, when people are like, "Ooh, yeah, you are someone that's very eloquent." Yes. You want the shagger words? Yes. 3 times, actually, sir.
Yep.
So he likes that. He still tries to stay safe while still, dude is still a narcissist.
Yeah. We got Nikki over here saying, I've never seen Piers so patient. He knows what he's doing. And you know what? For all the faults that we give a lot of media members, Piers actually does some decent interviews at times. So this is probably the best interview where you can really see that Piers asked tough questions, held him to the fire, even though you would think that they're both on the same side of the political spectrum since they're both aligned with Trump and the MAGA people. You know, Megyn Kelly gave this dude a softball interview and he still said, yeah, I was 16-year-olds. Piers asked him tough questions and grilled him, and so you got to give him credit. I know we shit on him when he's bad, but you should also give him his flowers when he runs a good interview, and I've seen him run several, so